What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of a relatively unknown movie called The Spore, and it's pretty cool. So The Spore is a movie that is a very indie shoestring budget style sort of movie that I'm sure costs a lot of money, but this is not a movie that is going to be compared to, let's say, I don't know, some of the Marvel movies. So if you're one of those people who can only watch those types of movies and doesn't have the brain or imagination to be able to see smaller budget films with big ideas, this is probably not the movie for you. I'm just kidding. But seriously, sometimes I get really irritated with some people when they talk about a fucking independent movie like as if it was supposed to have all these things that, yes, money would have solved, like acting and special effects. It's like people think of movie making as like some sort of magic button. Let me tell you something, pal. It takes a lot of fucking heart, passion to put out a shit movie. I'm talking shit. I'll get back to the review now. So anyway, I actually watched this movie and I was really interested in the trailer because it showed like a fungus and a mold that was sort of growing on people and then spitting at people, and then they would get infected and then shit would grow on them and then they would mutate into monsters. And yeah, that's fucking cool. Like, I don't care what budget you got. I just hope that we could give you as much money as possible to make that thing fucking happen. So I was definitely on board when I saw the trailer. I knew that it was going to be a lower level, sort of smaller indie budget thing, so I knew to kind of like taper back my expectations a little bit. And you know, I was actually pleasantly surprised with this. This is a movie that is directed by Dm Cunningham, who not only wrote, produced, directed, scored, sound designed, pretty much did everything for this movie. Probably sold his house so he could make this fucking film. He actually put this whole thing together to kind of make his first feature film. I'm not really sure if he's done other feature films because some of the listings don't say how long they are. So, and I haven't seen anything, but he's been in the business for 20 some years. He's a mask maker. He writes children's books. He used to be a former columnist of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine and has gone in to make a lot of films and stuff. One of the shorts that he did was called There's One Inside the House, which has awesome cover, by the way. He knows how to make these covers work, by the way. And Unholy Blood, which, if I'm not mistaken, the character on the front of the cover of this makes an appearance in this movie as a sort of Easter egg. In fact, I caught a couple of Easter eggs. Like, we heard Judy Myers in the movie over the radio. So there's, you know, obviously some fandom involved with this person who made this. Now, this is a very bleak movie. It's not exactly something that's like taking the piss out of you like a sort of SOV film sometimes does. Like, they really took it seriously here, whether the acting is on par with, like, you know, the greatest or not. It's still got a really serious take that is, you know, takes its time to really kind of develop in the viewer, which I appreciate because I don't need to be spoon-fed everything. But if you're paying attention, those who are watching and paying close enough attention, you will catch a lot of that in the radio that you hear, because this fungus, of course, they talk about the ice caps melting, and then this fungus has been spreading in Antarctica, and it causes a bunch of crazy stuff to happen. You get to follow all these different characters throughout the whole thing, and there really is no through character for the whole movie. They all just kind of run into each other, so it's like you're never really going to have one character that you love necessarily, although there is one character that stays in the longest. The ending's a little abrupt. I kind of wanted a little bit more from it, and yeah, I would have liked a little bit more story with this if I could, but you know, again, maybe DM is playing to their strengths and realizes that he's really just going for an atmospheric type of movie that is a very, very indie film, but also done in a way that is like a real serious movie with a lot of sort of schlocky gore and practical effects and monsters and creatures and all of this crazy shit. Really cool scenes that involve like the mold and what it does to people that I really appreciated. And it kind of makes you wonder how you would deal with this certain situation as it's picking off every one of its cast, hopping from one situation to another dire situation to the next dire situation. Let me get a little bit more critical about this film. This movie is very much a atmospheric type of movie, but that also helps to carry a sort of vibe and a sort of atmosphere to this movie, which for an indie shoestring budget movie, this has a surprising amount of atmosphere to it. Whether it gets you all the way there or not is up to you, but I think that the film score and the sound design actually really do play a big part in this film. And I almost feel like because this movie doesn't have a huge amount of dialogue, like an hour-and-a-half movie you would assume would have, I feel like it's almost as if DM is kind of playing to his strengths and knowing that maybe dialogue isn't the best thing always, and it can kind of take people out of the film. I'm not 100% sure on that. The very beginning of the movie does take a very long time before you really hear anything. In fact, you're just sort of kind of gaining what's going on by hearing this radio kind of announcer. And it was kind of cool. You're getting kind of like War of the Worlds feel while this guy is in a radioactive suit sort of going around collecting samples of stuff. And then shit breaks loose. You jump to another person and it goes to another person and who they bump into. And then it just kind of like happenstance how you run into people, and some of these people have discussions, some of them don't, some of them just are attacked and are living with the situation in the height of this weird fucking fungal crazy thing that's happening. You're kind of just on this like sort of It's a Small World fucked up ride, and I don't know if that's an aesthetic choice or just not knowing what to do with your time choice. We're not talking great acting here, we're not talking about the best shots I've ever seen, but for a shoestring budget sort of type of movie, like there were some good shots in this film. You know, some of the choices that they made in the film with the gore and the practical effects that they use, which is all over this place, which I applaud because at least they tried and they didn't just shove some stupid ass CGI into the film. So say what you will about this film, this is a very tough one to score for me because it is not like your regular film, and a lot of people I find that will see this movie will try to compare it to movies like, you know, something that it's not, and something that it doesn't have a budget for. It just makes me feel like good old-fashioned get out there and fucking make a movie fucking filmmaking. I've never spoken to anybody that's involved in this movie, by the way, just so you know, but I just somehow feel connected to this movie in a way that I admire its effort. I personally like this film. I would probably give it a 6 out of 10 for an indie budget. If you are used to watching, you know, really small budget films, maybe even like shot on video films that, you know, were done with a VHS camera. If you can tolerate stuff like that, you can definitely tolerate this. Obviously, my score is probably going to be much higher than I'm seeing online already, but that's just me. I mean, if you like body horror, practical effects, fungal, turning people into monsters, a good soundtrack, good sound design on an indie budget, maybe this is for you. This movie is available for rent. You can even rent it in 4K if you like. I think they're both the same price, but I didn't realize it. It's $5.99 right now, and I think there is a DVD out. Every time I search for it on Amazon, it was like something different. But this movie should be out on all your digital platforms right now, so you should be able to rent it. You may want to wait. I don't know, especially if you're not into risking the money. I totally understand, because this is a very niche concept of a film that might only appeal to a certain group of people like myself. But it is up on Prime. You have to search for The Spore 2021 and then go to the search and then hit Prime Video. I'll include a link down below for those of you who are in the US that want to watch this movie. And I think the DVD is like something like 13 or 14 bucks. Don't quote me. I wouldn't mind picking up a copy for myself just to have and throw on once in a while. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And if you enjoy this kind of content, looking for new movies, seeing stuff that maybe you haven't seen, or, you know, me just talking about stuff that everybody has, please hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, long live the boys.